What is up? Welcome to Radworks. My name's Conrad, and this is my abandoned Z project. It's not looking so abandoned anymore, so today's episode is going to be a little bit different than my standard build episode on the Z. Why, you might ask? Well, as you can see, the bumper's on, the fender's on. It's looking pretty complete, because it is complete. So, I've got to catch you up on everything done with the Z. But what you're probably here for on this video is the title and everything. This is more or less a PSA for anyone before they go and buy any AMS products, which if you've seen any of the previous episodes, we've got AMS down there, AMS down there, AMS in there, whole bunch of AMS. AMS everywhere on this car because that's what I could afford. So if you own a 300ZX or any of the Infinitis or Nissans that AMS makes products for and you've been thinking about getting an AMS, this video is for you. All right, let's get into it. All right, so you're probably sitting here thinking, what could be so bad about AMS? Or why should I not buy an AMS product? I'm gonna go over some pros and cons, but that's more or less what this video is gonna be for the first half. Second half, we're gonna catch you up on the Z. So, AMS, why should you buy an AMS product or why should you not buy an AMS product? We're gonna start with knots. So, number one, customer service. It's pretty lackluster. If you're wanting a company that's easy to deal with, AMS probably isn't gonna be it. In my experience, I've reached out to them 2 or 3 times. First time I got an answer pretty quickly. Second time I got an answer in 3 to 4 days. Third time I did not get an answer from them. From a customer service side, it's not the best. Now, shipping delays. You definitely will have some shipping delays, especially if you order directly from AMS. One of my main reasons of buying AMS is they labeled everything in stock. It's not in stock, so you do need to email them. But again, that comes back to the customer service point. You don't know when you're gonna get a response from them. It could be immediately, it could be in 4 days. So that kind of cucks you on that point. But first order, my parts had to wait from their container from China. So that took, what did that take? 4 to 6 weeks roughly to get that in. And then not even the entire order came in at once. I had to wait for the downpipes at a later date. That was an extra 2 weeks. Now, number dos. When you're purchasing stuff, it is not very clear as to what you need to use the parts. There's some weird things about their parts and they're not very consistent on how they present themselves. Example is parts don't exactly say what they're expecting you to buy with them, and then some of them they expect you to buy just solo, like the hard pipe kits. If you already have an AMS intercooler, AMS intercoolers come with reducer pipes, which they say can be used on stock pipes. They don't say that you need to cut those pipes to use them with the larger intercooler pipe kit that they sell. That can be confusing, and also they sell with that hard pipe kit replacement pipes for the intercooler side, which they already provide you as those reducer couplers. So you just kind of got to figure that all by themselves. Third part, no instructions. You get no instructions from anything. As best as you get is, like in the case of the intercooler system, is they have some pictures and it's basically a figure it out for yourself as to how you have to modify your car or the couplers that you have bought. That sucks. Highly recommend if you're buying any of these things, just go and find the Z1 instruction manuals. That's what I did, and that's how I figured out how to put everything together on my car. So I just went and found the Z1 manuals, which sucks that you have to use another company's manuals because it's not designed purely for that product, but had to do it. Those are gonna be the general PSAs from this. So I've recorded this video about 3 different times. It's all sounded a little bit too whiny, so I'm trying to keep this nice and condensed and a nice little PSA so you can understand what to look out for. Definitely had my fair share of frustrations with AMS. While we're at it, let's just go check out the pipes and everything, talk you through it. All right, big surprise. Last video, we just had the engine in and no piping, no radiator, no anything. I'm gonna do a quick update for you for the car and how this escalated, and then we'll go in on the AMS stuff. So when we got the motor in, I then put the radiator in. I quickly found out that our little friend down here, this little radiator net, yeah, that one just broke off. That was super cool. I just went and bought a new upgraded radiator. It puts you in a bit of a spiral, but if it broke, upgrade it. So that was different. I don't know if I had said this before, but we switched over to the NA power steering pump. That happened. And I just broke my shroud. So without any further ado though, let's get back into the AMS stuff, because I will circle back around with the headache of this. I just wanted to point out the sore thumb. So, getting into the engine bay, you'll see that our beautiful mess of a AMS piping kit. This took me a lot of time, and like I did say, it did require me looking up the Z1 piping kit installation guide. So that caused me a whole bunch of headache. It is not what I would call intuitive by any means. So if you're going to be doing this, like I said, look up that manual. It'll help you a lot. You'll see that doesn't look great. And then from this angle, you have pipes coming in this way, throttle body over here, and you're doing a little shifty shoot with the pipes here. So that kind of sucks. And there's just a bunch of that type of stuff going on here. Like, it's looking cockeyed over here. Like, this coupler stops here and this one starts over here, so it's doing this little kink shift over here. And you got a bunch of that with the different pipes. Like, you have it still going on over here, same thing on this side. I even had to take the intercooler piping and cut it to make it so it fit this one, because it was too short with these couplers. So there's just a whole bunch of inconsistencies when dealing with this AMS coupler kit. It sure seems to be that motto goes across the entire board with AMS. If you do the intake kit, highly recommend that you do their engine mounts. It says, you know, that it would make it easy. It makes it a lot easier. It is hell to go and do this with the stock motor mounts. Do not recommend it. Or at least the brackets, I think is what it is. Big thing is the brackets. And just like that, I lost my daylight. So as you can see clearly with the AMS kit, there is quality inconsistency throughout just everything. You gotta jerry rig everything to fit, and then you have to cut and trim couplers. In the kits, it either does or does not say that you need to trim. Obviously, we did our whole big haul video of all the parts that we got for the Z, but I'll just quickly list all the things that we have on the Z. 1, the Omega intercooler system. 2, the hard intake pipe system. 3, the hard intercooler piping kit. 4, the downpipes. And 5, the test pipes. Like you saw in the previous episode, the engine had to be moved away from the passenger side to get clearance on that. Turns out there was a little bit on my fault for positioning on installation of the motor, and then it actually was partly of a slightly mismanufactured downpipe. When I put on the test pipes, so it contacted the trans tunnel just a couple inches off of the downpipe and then down at the catback section. So you had those issues of it coming in contact with the trans tunnel from on the front side and the back side. And then if you tried to use the exhaust hangers, which is on the back of the transmission, it actually contacts the exhaust hanger bracket itself with the test pipe. So it's like it's just not bent correctly to be used with that exhaust hanger. Good luck on that one, because you have to triangulate between the contacting the front of the trans tunnel, the rear of the trans tunnel, and then the exhaust hanger itself. I didn't have any issues with contacting the front or rear of the trans tunnel on the driver's side, but had the same issue with the exhaust hanger. I'm gonna throw in the footage from trying to install this, and it'll speak for itself for how monkeyed it was. So pop that in right now. All right, this is what we're dealing with on the AMS. Driver's side came out just fine. Passengers being a freaking pain in the butt. Super, super close there. Literally touching right there. So I don't know if it's a downpipe thing or a test pipe thing. So that one's not too bad. Oh, geez, I'm drinking whacking myself. That one actually fit just fine. This one, not so much. Pain in my butt, dude. Let's get this figured out. All right, fit and finish of these AMS test pipes is definitely rough. I cannot get it to go into the exhaust hanger on the transmission, and that is because it is actually hitting the exhaust hanger itself. So we're gonna have to do some bending there, but I also think it's a little too close because it then's tucking up and touching the trans brace there. But not only that, but it's not really lined up down here when you go and try to get it to noodle in. Let's see if I can do this right. The wrench tripod. All right, so from my position, that looks like where you would line up and put it through. It is fully on the trans brace. That looks like it would be lined up. All right, yeah, I can see the holes from here. That's generally lined up, kind of the right position to go in there. Trans brace, it's really bad, really hard to see. And then exhaust hanger. So, from the looks of it, AMS jig on the passenger side is definitely off, I think. So I can't get the test pipe at all. It's no bueno. All right, I'm gonna take off the exhaust hanger off the trans and then see how it fits. This is just too much fun. All right, we finally got the exhaust on both sides. Oh boy, I'm upside down, so pardon me. Everything's all tightened up. Ouch. And we're looking good. I'm not so pleased with the fit. Obviously, we had the struggles with the exhaust hanger mounts on the transmission side. Had to take those off and it kind of made it fit better-ish, but as you can see, one's kind of in the right place and then one's totally not. This one, we did actually have to bend to get clearance away from the floor pan, and we are no longer hitting the trans tunnel. So that is all done. AMS fit quality, I'd say a solid 4 out of 10. It works, but it's not so great. Also, look at this garbage. This guy, lowest point on the car is gonna be your O2 sensor. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. Well, that's all done. So, as you can see, clearly there's some inconsistencies across the board. Now, for what it's worth, AMS products are very cheap, and it's clear there's clearly reasons why it is so cheap. So this has been my PSA section of just be careful before you buy any AMS products. So on that note, I'm done with AMS. I can't do it anymore. It has caused me so many headaches with this car and trying to install everything. Now that everything's installed, it's not so terrible, but I don't know if it's gonna cause me any issues down the road because I'm still fighting issues with this car. And I don't know if it's related to the AMS stuff. So on that note, let's update you on everything that's happened to the Z, as I've clearly skipped a whole bunch because the Z is in driving form right now. Let's catch up. As you probably could tell right off the bat, that is not a stock radiator. So another issue that you're gonna have with AMS stuff is a problem for the Z32 in this case, which AMS actually, props to them, they prompt you that it will be difficult to use the 2.5-inch piping kit with an aftermarket radiator, which update for you guys on the Z. I threw in the aftermarket radiator. As you saw before, if you had a keen eye and you paid attention to any percentage, as you can see here, it actually does, I'm trying not to get in the way, it actually does contact here. Props to AMS. They did actually say that if you run a larger aftermarket radiator, you will have issues with installing, and obviously, as you can see, I have contact there, I have contact there, and we have contact there. So it gets nice and cozy there, and it touches the radiator, which isn't the best, but you pay to play the game with the Z32s, or you're making custom pipes. So that one, in fact, I would not classify as a ding against AMS. That was a good case of them doing that. Also, in fairness to AMS, I give them a lot of crap. I did not buy their engine bracket kit, which they advise to use when you're doing the 2.5-inch intakes. So my fault, I guess. Now, let's get back to the updates on the Z. So like we just touched on, we have the brand new aftermarket radiator, and I'll show you why we went with that. All right, so here we have the Z's radiator, and as you can see, that sucker broke. Now, being that that is broke like that, I just figured it was best to go ahead and upgrade the radiator. As you can see, radiator is about, yay, 1.25 inches thick versus this bad mamma jamma, which is probably, you know, triple its width. I thought it was a no-brainer install, but it does make it very difficult to do anything else in this area, which is already very tight. That sucked. Also, note for you guys is I installed this and I did not think about it. I bought Z1 rad hoses with the Z1 spec HAL radiator. It doesn't say anywhere you have to trim this to make this fit. So good little tip if you don't already know that. That was annoying. Moving on, I had issues plagued everywhere with the Z, which, shocker, abandoned car you left for 6 years and then you come back to try and fix everything. It's gonna fight you wherever it possibly can. So like I had shown before, I upgraded the front brakes to the Brembos. I screwed up the bleeder screw on the Brembos and totally buggered the entire caliper. I tried to time cert it and fix it, which I then screwed the time cert up again. So I bought brand new calipers, got the new calipers on. I couldn't bleed them for the life of me. I couldn't bleed the clutch system for the life of me. So we got new clutch slave and clutch masters. That helped with the system, but I still had an air pocket in the clutch. I had a lot of air pockets in the brake system. I first had the issues with bleeding the Brembos, and that's how I screwed up the bleeder screws. I couldn't get those to bleed, so I tried switching those out to speed bleeders. Speed bleeders across the entire car, I could not get those to work at all for me. So I scrapped the speed bleeders. I bought a vacuum bleeder from Amazon. First round, no go. That one sucked. And then I bought a Mighty Vac from Amazon, which was their higher end pressure and vacuum bleeder. Highly recommend that one. That one actually fixed the system. So just as an FYI, I'm trying to speed run all of this for you guys because I was trying to edit down all the footage, and it's about 4 hours of troubleshooting the Z, and it's just not fun. So that's why we're doing this little speed round of updates on the Z and what all happened, just so you don't have to sit through the entire process. Obviously, it's a build, but it's not fun to go through that, because albeit the brakes now work, car doesn't exactly work great. Continuing on, we chased a misfire for a hot minute on this sucker, and as you can see, keen eye will know that those are little adapter coils. And you can probably notice and see that those are R8 coil packs. So we went and upgraded the system to a smart coil. It is tuned, so we can run the R8 coil packs. Fun fact, the R8 coil packs dwell timing is pretty close to the stock system, so they will actually run on a stock timing system. And you're probably asking yourself, why was it misfiring? How'd you find that out? PTU. So you test the PTU in two ways, basically the resistances and ohms and everything going forward and backwards. It successfully did forward, it did not do the polarized backwards. There was 3 cylinders that you could test backwards on, and actually those 3 cylinders did have super fouled plugs. We went and deleted that. A PTU costs about $140. A set of R8 coils and a adapter kit is about $300-ish. So it's kind of a no-brainer to go ahead and future-proof your ignition system on this, because you're A, upgrading to a smart coil pack, getting rid of the dummy coils, and B, have a better spark for when you're pushing boost. That's good upgrade. Good upgrade in my book. So we fixed the misfire with doing that. Now, at the same time, I was chasing a high idle. So I went and I tested our good old buddy right down here, which is idle air control valve. That guy tested out right. I thought I was wrong. It was right. I did this about 6 times going back and forth on it. And then what ended up being, which I think is a problem, but I'll circle back around to it because it's still fighting me. This guy, I have set and reset and monkeyed with it probably 5 to 7 times. This guy tested good about 2 or 3 times. It finally tested bad for me. So that is a brand new OEM TPS, which I got at the same time as the test pipes. So when we got those all set up, got a new TPS in there. That one is set correctly. So obviously we went through the TPS system, but before I actually ended up replacing the TPS system, I went through the throttle bodies. I synced them. I got them really, really close together. I did not get them perfect, but I say I don't have them perfect. I have this one on a 2 thou slight pull, and that one is a 2 thou hard pull. It's not over or under. It's just there's a slight difference at where you can tug a 2 thou feeler gauge. That has also been checked, rechecked time and time again. I did that 3 times. That one I did the least amount, but that one also was a pain in my booty hole. Did not enjoy that one. Along with that, we went checked the coolant temp sensor. Another thing to point out here that I did, and you probably would have noticed this if you're a Z32 person, the line in this area is no longer there. That is a clutch line that you should delete it if you have these cars and you have the engine out. Super easy to delete when the engine is out. That is another thing that I highly recommend doing, is deleting that line, because that fought me a lot with doing the clutch system. I did a lot more with troubleshooting that clutch system, but I don't want to bore you between it all. Go ahead, delete that clutch line that runs to the top of the fender. I believe it's called the clutch damper line or whatever, something like that. It is a waste of time and a waste of space as far as the Z32 goes, because we're clearly lacking in the space department on these cars. That's a good one to delete, and that is something that I did do as well. I'll also note that I was very stupid for not deleting it before installing everything, so Also, with that being said, as you can see, I have no idea where my washer went. So he's kind of floating there with those guys. Don't kill me. It works. It's fine. Also, while we're on the subject of don't mind this, don't mind that. That is purely for testing purposes. So another thing that happened to the Z that I filmed but didn't do a very good job of making it into watchable content is I had a whole run-in with the rear end high kiss system. So obviously I've had a first start, which being a first start, let me see if I have the footage, throw it in here.
All right, let's go for this.
Second time's the charm. Hey, oh! Oh, that was short-lived. Let's go! Hell yeah! We got it! All right, we're gonna kill it there. Woo! I was happy to have a start period, so you take your W's where you can take them. So anyways, back on the subject of the high kiss system, I'll throw in that footage here in a second, but so what ended up happening is I bought the AMS high kiss delete bar, which I mean, did I forget to mention that before? Amongst the other AMS products I had bought, which actually their delete bar is not too shabby, so it works. So we had the AMS delete bar in it, so I took the Z up and down the driveway trying to test out the brakes so I don't die on my first drive of the vehicle, to then find out that the rear end is shaking back and forth. So what ended up being is the high kiss ball joints were donezo. Those are like, it's either $90 or $180 each for those ball joints. I just wanted those gone and deleted, which turns out, unless you're buying an SPL arm kit or you're buying an eBay no-name brand kit, which I'll trust AMS to an extent, I don't know if I could trust an eBay no-name suspension item that you have no credibility on the company. So, especially when it comes to deleting a suspension component that is to keep you from hitting walls, basically. With that being said, I had bought a Skyline rear high kiss delete kit, so arms and everything, and I quickly found out the subframes between the R32 and the Z32 are not the same. When you go and try and buy a high kiss delete kit, a lot of them will say Z32/R32. Well, that's not really the case always, and that's because the subframes are different, but they share the same high kiss delete position-ish. So I went ahead and contacted GK Tech and bought their yoke and bolt setup to add into a delete bar and run the toe arms from the Skyline kit. Being that the track width is not the same between the Z and R chassis, the arms actually needed to be shortened just a smidge, so I did shorten them and I made that kit work for the Z. So the cheat code to this one and lesson learned on my behalf, if you're going to do a high kiss delete on a Z, the right way is to just take and buy an NA subframe and do NA toe arms. Just swap that all out, do your subframe bushings at the same time, and then you'll be gold. I was trying to be cost effective and lazy at the same time and did what I did. I ended up costing me more money than doing the subframe swap from sourcing it from somebody locally. Lesson learned on my end. Don't do that on your end. Just do it the right way. So, but if you are in a situation where you can't do a subframe swap, but you can install a bar, just hit up GK Tech on their email, ask them that you want to buy the toe arms and bracket to go into a high kiss delete bar, and then just buy your high kiss delete bar from somebody else, because GK Tech does not sell just that bar. So all you're getting is the toe arm and the low bracket to go into a high kiss bar. So that'll fix you up. But as you can tell, I switched up the wheels on this, which was part of me chasing the wobble in the rear end. I thought it could have been the Regas. It wasn't the Regas, but I threw on the Blitz 01s that the GTR came on, and I actually really like this look. This looks sick to me. I dig it. Like, obviously it needs to go down and the bumper needs to fit correctly, but it's a good look if I do say so myself. All right, so let's go over a quick summary of what all has happened. We had all the AMS shenanigans between the intercoolers, the intercooler pipes, the intake pipes, the test pipes, the down pipes, and like we just mentioned, the high kiss delete bar and system. To get that sorted out and good. Put the HKS exhaust back on, which, mind you, is actually causing me a little bit of PTSD, because the oil from blowing the turbos is still in the mufflers, because it like blew a lot of oil. So whenever I get on it, it's smoking when it gets A, force, and B, hot. So I get that luxury. We have the TPS dramas, we have the coolant sensor checks, then we have the throttle body syncing, the intake air control system, which is comprised of 3 devices: the regulator, the AAC, and the FCID, I believe. One basically is idle up on your AC system, one is your temperature, and then one is regulator, which is technically also temperature. So yeah, all you need to know is regulator, AAC, FCID. That is your AICV system, or IEC, whatever you want to. Hello, mouse. I just saw a mouse just scurry on over. Frickin', I guess my house is your house, right? So we had all those lovely sensor run-ins. Radiator, I didn't mention it, but did deal with the math. That was good. PTU delete and smart coil install, which is also fun. And that about brings us up to date to today. Love to do a first drive video, but doing a first drive video on a car that is not behaving sucks. On that note, hopefully you are staying more rad than me, and you can have a good day and mental peace, because I sure am not. And hopefully next video will be our first official drive, and not just a bunch of failed test drives. So, peace out, stay rad.